In this video, we're talking about healing a new world after the Aeternum update. I've literally been grinding a brand new character. I'm on Hudsonland, and my name is Cyrus on the actual server if you want to connect with me. But anyway, we're actually going to be talking about actual attributes. We're going to talk about weapon mastery, some things you need to be looking for, and kind of just general overall updates to being a healer. Yes, I'm releasing a video on keybinds, and might mention some of that in this video, but honestly, the changes to attributes as well as some of the weapon masteries are the things that I think we really need to focus on. Number one, I think the biggest thing, honestly, is the ring. And I think in like season 5 and season 4, healing breeze was much better in season 4. It wasn't very useful in season 5 in my opinion. Some people might disagree, and they have in comments of previous videos, but I don't think it was as useful because it only worked on one target and not every one that it hit, which was weird. At least that was in my testing. But what I want to say is now it is honestly probably a requirement or something you should always look for. On these new servers, it's kind of hard to find a ring. At least if you're on like a legacy server, you can probably find a really nice one. I have some really great ones on my Lilith character, but this one I've literally just had to. This was a 10,000 gold ring that I bought yesterday. That was a low level because the only other ring that I have that is Healing Breeze. Let's see if I can find it. Is right here. It's a 695 one with Healing Breeze, Enfeebling, and Refreshing. All right, and you can already see I'm overstacked on Refreshing. But the reason that Healing Breeze is now awesome is it hits every one that you actually heal. Will actually do an extra 200 or so tick, 200, 300 tick heal on them for 6 seconds, and that's actually up to, I believe it's 8 seconds because you have some buff increase durations that you actually put out. And then on yourself, it's only like high 100s, low 200s maybe. But the big thing about that is this, honestly, you put down a sacred, you're healing like 1200, you're really healing 1400 with an extra tick, which is what's so cool. And if they step out of it, they're still getting something over and above. And I think this honestly makes Orb even more viable for a healing spot, especially in, OPRs and wars, because you're going to be able to just throw that orb out, and they might be getting their normal orb kind of heal for the 15 seconds, but they're also going to be getting that extra 200 on top of it, including that first initial buff. So that was a lot to grasp. But number one, if you can, your first thing I think you need to go find is a ring with Healing Breeze. Don't try to, sure, if you can find Sacred Hardy Healing Breeze, I think that's the best ring you can get. But on these new start servers where everything is so expensive and the demand is so high, it's kind of hard to find exactly what you're looking for. So if you can, step one, Healing Breeze on a ring. I was really fortunate, like day 3, I hit 65 and I was able to go find a group to go find Life Taker. I still have not upgraded it to put Putrefying Scream on it, but I still think that Life Taker is one of the best offhands for a healer just because you're able to get that Disintegrate, which adds 10% rend. It stacks 3 times, and you're able to add those rends with just using your life staff. And specifically for the life staff, I farmed Empyrean Forge week 1. I got Fire of Life. I literally bought a cheap weapon matrix that somebody had put up for a really low price, got a chromatic seal, and then put Refreshing Move on it. So I have the life staff I want, but you don't have to have this specific life staff. I would encourage you, if you can find Refreshing Move, this is where you should start, especially on these fresh start servers. Or if you can get Blessed Refreshing Move, that's great. The faction vendors are a place to get that. There are plenty of them in the world you can get. You can go farm in Merkengard. I think it's the Corrupted Progenitor, drops with Blessed Refreshing Move. So there's options. There's also ones that actually drop from the Gorgon raid and loot stuff that you can actually get. So there are options out there. I just personally love, and you don't have to have it, I love Fortifying Sacred Ground on the life staff. I like that 17%. I know that I can throw it on a tank, and they've got almost a 20% hit and over above when it comes to armor. I like having this down, and I can always have a sacred down. So the big change there is one, Healing Breeze, and for gear I am rocking Featherweight. I did actually put health on it with an armor matrix and a seal, but then they just updated today. I couldn't put it to 725, and now they can make it to where it's 725. So I basically wasted a seal and a matrix, whatever the case. There's a whole lot of stuff going on with the new update that I think we're all still kind of learning. Anyway, a featherweight build, which will put me at 1267 physical armor, 1290 elemental, and that's just depending kind of on the armor and the weapons that you're actually wearing. You can see that my legs here have a higher armor for elemental than they do physical, so that's why it turned out that way. Those are the things you want to take a look at. As far as perks on the gear, health is always great, refreshing, any kind of conditioning, those are things I always look for, but purity of light, because I like running splash of light. And Voracious Blade is something that I love to have on my gear as well. Now, I showed it earlier, but I want to talk attributes. I'm actually running 352 focus, 250 con, and that's with a 48 con food, which is expensive on my server, but I've been making it work because I've been buying it really cheap on the post. However you want to make this work, I've been focusing on 250 con to get that 60% base damage reduction. And I know this might look completely weird in some of my previous builds. You know, I've done 100 con, 200 intelligence, or 200 con, 400 focus. I've been running these mutated expeditions with people, and because, you know, cut gems are so hard to get because they're so expensive and things like that, I just wanted more health. So this is kind of a general rule. I think 350 focus is where you should probably aim. You can go higher, but you have to have 325 to do mutated 2s anyway. So if you want to queue for it in the system, that is. So Constitution, I've been running mostly just 250. My Void Blade's not very strong, but it's actually been pretty good in like open world PvP. I've had a lot of fun, and I haven't felt very restricted. But I have been watching a lot of people on TikTok running 5 con, 8,000 health. You might be putting out a lot of damage, but you are a glass cannon, my friend, and it doesn't matter how much healing I put on you. One hit from a boss or one really bad encounter, you're gone. And then your really big DPS is useless because you're dead. So I'm always a fan of having con. I think lower damage but actually living means you can actually put out more damage. That's just my perspective. Drop down in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are. Anyway, this is where I'm kind of leaning right now, is con being at 250. One of the changes they did make, this has nothing to do with this builds, but I do want to make sure you see this. The 300 bubble for Constitution they changed. Right now it's gain grit when charging and performing heavy attacks. It used to be with light attacks on the 300 bubble, and I would say for tanks to be able to take a 300 bubble just so they can swing and continue to A, generate stamina because they're not blocking all the time, but B, they're able to have grit and not get knocked down while they're doing that and still be able to lower cooldowns, etc. I don't know if I recommend that anymore. So those of you who are like, oh my god, I want to do a paladin build, I should run 300 to get that bubble, I'm not sure I would say that. Yeah, I don't think 300. I actually think this works. 250, 352, or 350. I think this is actually a really good spread for like a paladin build. If you're into maybe like Flail and Lifestaff, that's a really good one. Anyway, let's go over to Mastery. I think this is where some of the changes go into what I normally run. I've moved some perks around. I want to talk about why this makes sense. Everyone's going to have a completely different way to run healer, but the ones that they're always going to have is they're going to have some kind of burst heal. So they're going to have a Divine Embrace, a Splash of Light, a Light's Embrace. Some people are running Orb, and Orb I feel like is really effective with Healing Breeze right now, but if you don't have Healing Breeze, you know, the Fortify from Orb doesn't really help light armor as much as it does the heavier armor people, just because of the 20% Fortify is based upon 20% of your armor not right now is added. And if you have 3,000 armor, you know, that's an extra 600 armor. So I think, you know, Orb plays a lot more into effect in specific situations, not as like, this is how I would run all the time. I feel very weak running Orb, I'll say it that way. Divine Embrace, I actually love running Divine Embrace. However, a lot of people are very squishy right now in expeditions, so I'm not running Divine Embrace as much, because by the time I've hit one and healed them, the next one's down, and, you know, Rebound and Shared Struggle wasn't able to reach them or whatever the case. So I've been running Splash of Light. I know it's full AoE. I don't care about that. This is what keeps my team together. So here's how it works right now. We're going Sacred all the way in. We're still taking Desperate Speed, Revitalize for cooldowns, Intensify, Heavy Attacks to get 30% extra heals, and Sacred Protection is always on your life staff. We're still taking Blissful Touch to actually shoot through an ally to heal for another 16%. But this bubble is one of the bubbles that changed. Absolved used to be where it wouldn't cost mana to shoot the light attacks, and the heavy attacks it wouldn't cost mana. You would always take it so you wouldn't lose mana by using your life staff. Now it doesn't do that anyway. Now Absolved is by doing a heavy attack, you can restore 5% of your mana when it passes through your allies. Usually it's only about one ally because it triggers pretty slow. Anyway, this gives you back like 6 mana. That's all great and fine, but you're heavy attacking, not lowering your cooldowns a bunch. There could be a build where you do Absolved, you do Mending Touch, and you run that Purifying on your life staff, so you actually, every time you remove a debuff, you get another extra 33% heal. You could totally do something like that, and there is a build to be made there. Let me know if you want to see something like that, but I like running just Blissful Touch, and then obviously going to Divine Blessing. On the right side, you kind of get a free point. Obviously, you want Bend Light to dodge to get an extra 20%. You want Protector Strength because you're always going to have Sacred Protection, so that's an extra 20% of healing. And then I love Glowing Focus to have longer buffs. This is important because it also does Healing Breeze will have a longer buff as well. And then Beacon, I go through at least Radiance's Blessing. The free point here is where I'm putting it in a Protector's Touch. I've been feeling weak. I've already boosted Con, but that extra 15% Fortify by just hitting basic attacks, which I'm doing to lower cooldowns anyway, feels really nice. However, this could be put here in Speed of Light to give haste to people who are getting healed inside of Beacon. You could put it into Balance so that you can get some haste. You could put it over into Enchanted Justice so that, you know, you're able to get some heals that are on you without sacrificing heals on somebody else. You could put it in Absolved, or you could drop Splash of Light, go Divine Embrace all the way through to Rebound, and still keep everything else here without any issues. So I think there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to this, and, you know, Divine Embrace obviously is going to be one of your bigger heals. Light's Embrace and Divine. Divine's going to be like your biggest number heal most of the time, but people are so squishy right now because they're learning the game and they're not really knowing like dodge mechanics. And so as a healer, your job is to keep people alive. And I feel like Splash of Light is just doing that really well right now. And what's nice about Splash of Light is the armor perk, Purity of Light. You know, if you do remove a debuff, with this, you're going to get an extra 39% heal from your weapon damage, which is like another 500 or 600. But that, you know, also stacks with all that outgoing healing. So, you know, if you can find a Purity of Light, which is so hard to do, perks are so hard to find on these new servers. And I'm on Hudsonland, which is a pretty active server. It's just hard to find gear. For Void Gauntlet, I did change a little bit. So if you can see the tree right here, again, screenshot if you want to be able to see this. But most of what I've done is remove a few things over on the Annihilation tree so that I can go all the way down in Essence Rupture to be able to get the overflowing essence. So that when it ends, or if the enemy is killed, it will actually pop that bubble of healing, which is a really nice, you know, burst heal. I love using Essence Rupture if I'm running solo around in the map. This is how I keep myself self-sustained without having to pull out my life staff all the time. But in expeditions for single targets, all that lifesteal you're getting from just doing Essence Rupture is so nice because then you can just flop back to the life staff, and because of Sacred Protection, increases the amount of healing from all sources, including life-stealing sources, by 10%. So they're even, you know, they're getting an extra even buff just from there by hitting them with Essence Rupture. So switching over to life staff, switching off life staff to Void Gauntlet, hitting them with a Rupture, and then going back to life staff, unlike bosses and stuff, really good way to do this. I take Orb just to be able to get to here. I don't really use Orb that much, but most of the time I'm running Void Blade, Oblivion, and Petrifying Scream. Most of the time, especially for PvP. I'm running Petrifying Scream. And then when I'm doing single boss or a lot of PvE stuff, I'll switch to Essence Rupture. And so I leave it like this so that I don't have to respec each time. I can literally just go in here while out of combat and just easily switch my perks to make that easy here. Because by taking all of this, I now have options. If I want to do another big group heal, I can throw Orb, you know. So I think there's a benefit of having these perks taken, which might seem like it's a loss, but Essence Rupture is almost... I love it. I think it's fantastic for Void Gauntlet. The other part of this build, and I just want to go ahead and say this, I have been using Flail, and all you really have to do is you can run a light head, the light chest, light gloves, light pants, and you can run heavy boots with a round shield, right? And you can still be, you know, at a 12.4 and still be in a light loadout, and that still gives you just under, you can see right here, just under 1,000 armor, just with lightweight on there as well. And so I haven't even leveled it up, but I got Power Stone, which comes from doing the soul trials. Anyway, I haven't even leveled it up, but I've loved using Flail, and people have asked me about, what about Flail? Here's my Flail build. I literally run the full left tree except for Vital Suppressant. Really simple, nothing crazy here. I love doing this, and honestly, and the same thing for attributes. It goes to 413 and then con. I would probably still be running like 350, 200. My foods ran out, so you can see I don't have as much buff here, but I would respec and let this be about that 350, 200 or 350, 250. I could even go like 350, 100 and then put another 100 in strength, which wouldn't be a problem. You'd be getting more damage from the Flail. You would just have less health for sustain and blocking and things like that. So I've had a lot of fun with Flail, running around and leveling that up. It's been pretty nice. And Rapier also has felt really nice. I just haven't fully leveled it up yet to go take it into PvP and OPR and stuff like that. So anyway, that's my take on how things are going right now as far as a healer. Healing Breeze is something I think you need to go and grab, but make sure you just check the trading post every now and then to see if you can find some of these pieces of gear that will help you be a better healer. Again, try to find a refreshing move, life staff, try to get the life taker, just go into recruitment X life taker. It's not necessarily the hardest thing to get if you have a group. Solo, it's kind of difficult to go through there. Anyway, love you guys. Thank you so much. Comment down below what your thoughts are on my current placement of this. This is like the Friday of the Night Veil event that just started. By the way, the Night Veil. Really quick, make sure you go to Salvatore. And please make sure you go down here and get your chromatic seals for 10 tokens. You can get several of them. They're like a 3-day cooldown. Make sure you get these, and make sure you get the Gear Score 700 armor patterns. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Check out one of these two right here. And also, thank you for the support of this channel. We're nearing 500 subscribers, and I've only uploaded 3 videos to this channel. And you guys are amazing. Thank you for the comments, the love, the support. Honestly, you're making this process of, you know, making gaming content just wonderful. I hope you all have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.